All right, everybody, welcome back. Sam's Army Match Week 27. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to start with the Premier League, where we'll talk about the champs being crowned and a big week for Newcastle. Halftime will be penalty responsibilities related weekly what if. Round the world, hit it and quit it MLS Minute is back and better than ever. Stoppage time with Ivan Toney's best bets and everyone's favorite segment, GOAWs. Now, time to welcome in this week's panel of beauties. Starting with Mr. Tommy McGunner. Give us the quick and dirty pitch on why Loudoun United is going to win the USL championship this season, Tommy.
What, by quick and dirty, you want one word again for this?
No, not that quick or that dirty.
We're returning a lot of guys from last year. I really like the core group that we have, and I don't think that happens often in our league where you have 16 to 18 guys returning. So that's a big positive for us.
Okay, that works. Good sales pitch. Next, we got Tyler Terrens, who is back from a weekend trip to Austin. So I'm going to give you the usual question. What was the best and worst thing you experienced in Austin, Texas this weekend?
Worst thing was the weather, 35 degrees and raining basically the entire time that I was there, and the heat in my hotel room didn't work for the first 24 hours, so that was fun. The best part had nothing to do with the game, but a bunch of my Hobart soccer teammates, the kids who were like 2 or 3 years younger than me, who were freshmen and sophomore when I was a senior, one of them was having their bachelor party down in Austin. I didn't even know until the day of the game. They ended up pivoting and going to the game. They sat behind John Pulskamp in the Sporting Kansas City goal in the first half. And then I met up with them after the game, went to a comedy club and was hanging out with them for a few drinks. So just impromptu reunion with some college soccer buddies, which was awesome. So that was the best part of the weekend.
Nice. That is a very good impromptu little trip there or experience for the weekend. Mitchell, number one, how dare you wear the Apologize United jersey on this podcast? Are you trying to send a message? Are you stabbing me in the back here?
How many years has it been?
It's been a lot. 6, 7? I don't know. Oh yeah. Listen, we never forget. We forgive. We haven't done that yet either, but we never forget.
Okay. The beef that you have with Atlanta United is not mine. I'm not going to choose sides. You can come to both of our Thanksgivings, but yeah, I'm going to wear this shirt for now.
That's fair. I mean, honestly, I like the team and I like the fans, and I really respect the fans. It's just me in the front office. I just got listen. Until I get an apology, I'm still calling it Mitchell Goulet. Oh, they even gave you the Goulet on the back.
Yeah, they're
wow.
going to customize it and everything. They knew
All
they
right.
treat a lady.
Fair enough. All right, move on. It is time to promote the Kick It one-stop shop for soccer tennis. Tyler, give it to us.
Yep. As you know by now, Kick It, one of our proud sponsors, and created by a former Division I soccer player and a buddy of mine from Chicago. And Kick It is just that soccer tennis pack and play, if you will, that you're going to want during the summer months, that you're going to want when it starts to warm up. By the way, a little cozy 50 degrees in the East Coast. And, if I had anybody to play soccer with here in Cincinnati, I have no friends here. And that's not sympathy. That's just sort of telling you what my weekends look like traveling for MLS. No, it's a sad, lonely existence. I would love to play Kick It on a day like today. I would love to. And so if you want to, you can type in the code SAM25. That's going to get you a nice little chunk of change off of the basic soccer tennis set that Kick It has to offer. It's going to bring it down to about $59.99. So head to kickit.net.com to get yours today.
Well done, as always. We'll move on and get started with the Premier League, of course. So some interesting results from the weekend. I think the highest profile of them were at the top of the table, where you had Manchester City going down, losing 2-0 at home to Liverpool, maybe just handing the trophy over from the blue side of that stadium to Liverpool. Also, Arsenal losing 1-0, 0-1 at home to West Ham, and then Newcastle coming out close winners, 4-3 in what was one of the more interesting, exciting games of the year against Nottingham Forest. I think those are the high-profile games. Bournemouth lost to Wolves, bit of a surprise, red card aided. Ipswich got hammered by Tottenham, 4-1, and Villa lost to Chelsea, or Villa beat Chelsea, 2-1. So, Mitch, we'll go to you first. What was the most interesting result of the weekend and why?
Probably the one where we handed the title to Liverpool. That would be pretty interesting to me. I really hate being this pessimistic about it, but I don't see a scenario now in which you're doing your little fucking dance.
He's doing his happy dance right now.
Oh, God, and you can only see that if you're watching us on YouTube. But
I don't know if I've ever seen that happy dance before.
It's pure. That's just an expression of genuine joy and knowledge that you're going to win the Premier League.
I think you're right.
And mine went away once that red card was shown.
Yeah, that was tough. Any arguments from you or Tommy on that?
It's the right. I would like to see it called a red card on the field at first, not like go to VAR for it, but it's the right call.
Yeah, fair, very fair. A couple red card a couple of red cards changed games and perhaps ended title races this weekend. Tyler, anything to say for yourself other than your little happy dance?
No. I don't really have much to say. Mohamed Salah should be the front runner for Ballon d'Or. Liverpool are headed back to the perch. Hopefully we'll be able to clinch the title this year at Anfield in front of the fans. That would be fabulous. I would love to re-sign Mo. That's my only real gripe in life right now, outside of the whole no friends thing in Cincinnati. But other than that, life's pretty good.
Could be worse. I actually don't disagree with anything you just said right there. Salah should be the Ballon d'Or.
50 goals and assists, 50 goal contributions in a season. The only team he hasn't scored against in the Premier League is Nottingham Forest.
Liverpool don't even need a striker just because they got Mo Salah.
Arsenal, take notes. You don't just get to make excuses because you don't have a striker.
Oh, look at me. I have a generational player. I can tell other teams how to conduct their business. Shut up.
Kyle Saka's not a generational player?
Oh, he's been hurt. Yeah.
Generational hurt player.
Okay, take Salah out of the team and see how they do.
Right. We would probably be tied with Arsenal on points right now. I guess.
That's actually a great weekly what if right there.
I think it's probably an 11-point difference. Yeah.
That's what. Yeah.
Yeah.
No argument there. Anything at all. Listen, that game against West Ham, red card early in the game. You guys just didn't create any offense, but that's kind of been your MO lately.
I do think we had chances in that first half and in the second half, even after the red. Like, I do think we created chances for ourselves, but the personnel up top showed. It was either like a searching ball for Marino, who, with all of his credit for the last week, is not a striker and was kind of clear that he doesn't know how to move like a striker up there. Or is comfortable doing that at a Premier League level. Trossard kind of looked like he was out of gas. There were a couple chances that he had that maybe he could have done better with. And then Waneri was fine, but you saw the lack of depth up there. So I think we did create chances, but we didn't deserve to win that game at all, or even draw, really.
Anything to add on that game, Tommy?
Yeah, I thought we sucked.
I agree.
Straight up, like game sucked. We sucked. West Ham fully deserved to win that. And that the red card, the game was over before that with the way they were playing. But yeah, I don't think, to your point, Mitch, like Marino up top against a low block with 6'3" guys probably wasn't going to work. And then before you even got to that point, there are way too many giveaways. Odegaard gave the ball away so much. And then, yeah, it wasn't a fun game to watch at all.
Shocking defending on the goal, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
I mean, really
looking around.
Yeah. I mean,
Tommy, can I ask you something? As a defender / defensive-minded player, if you lose a ball in the position that Lewis Skelly did, is your instinct or direction from coaches to bring that player down tactically, or
yes,
that's kind of the norm essentially?
I'm taking him out. Yeah. That high up the field, you're thinking like, oh, it's that much, like it's not terrible or double jeopardy. But it ended up like, I think clearly one of the things that he needs to work on, we need to create like an IDP or individual development program for Skelly on how to foul in the attacking half so you don't get a red card.
You're saying take him down, but just don't do it to the point where it gets you a red card. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. A little bit more
I
skill.
misunderstood that. It was sort of like, no, I'm taking the red card on behalf. I
No,
mean,
no,
because
no,
it
I'm
was like
taking
later,
him
because
down.
it was later in the game,
Yeah.
which to me is fine. But like, if it's, like Kamal Miller in the Portland game, there's no need to, grab Brian White inside of the first 10 minutes. Like, let him go 1v1 and potentially score. Like, just live to fight another day type thing. But okay, that makes sense.
But also,
Situational.
like,
Yeah.
I wonder if, like, what are the chances of, let's say he doesn't make either of those fouls against Wolves or West Ham. What are the like percentage chances that that leads to a goal? They
That's
got to
kind
be
of where my
less than
question's coming from.
10%.
Right. Like
Yeah,
that's kind of where
it's a
my
long way to
question's
go.
coming from is, are coaches taught to, or teaching players to kind of play the percentages there, and you would rather chance a red card than give somebody that open an opportunity? Or is it like, hey, we can just kind of hustle back, especially since the ball was that far up the field?
In that
did seem
situation,
like
it looked like desperation. Like he's like,
Yeah.
oh shit, I lost the ball. This guy's going past me. I'm just following him.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have time to do the mental math, I don't think,
Right.
on that one.
No, he's saving face. But I like Mitch, you got a good point. Like, I think a lot of coaches teach teams to tactically foul in the attacking half when like their press is broken or it's a transition so that they don't have to run all the way back.
Mhm.
But both of his situations were like extreme versions of that,
Mm.
where it was a bad touch on both from him or someone else, where it is a transition moment, but it's literally 1v1.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think what you're taught, people taking it to the extreme, where maybe it's not the best use of that teaching.
Now, the other game at the top of the table, Liverpool 2-0 at Man City. I mean, like, it just felt like, okay, this is a good capstone for where we are right now. Man City is just not as good a team as Liverpool. Liverpool has Mo Salah. What else is there to say? Anything else?
Can I need to get something in about like Arne Slot's ability and willingness to check his ego when being in charge of Liverpool Football Club and being a manager in the Premier League and being a manager, period. Because giving up close to 70% possession, letting Manchester City have the ball, starting Curtis Jones and Szoboszlai in the same game, playing without a striker, and doing what he did in arguably the biggest game of the year, and doing something different and taking a look at your opponent, taking inventory of what you do have, and altering that and giving yourself the best chance to win the game. I'm sorry, but Ruben Amorim, Ange Postecoglou, Mikel Arteta, even Enzo Maresca to a certain extent, all are guilty of not being able to do this and not wanting to do it. And people are looking around and wondering why Arne Slot, in his first year of being manager in the Premier League, is able to pull off what he's pulling off right now. Yes, generational player Mohamed Salah, who probably, if maybe not, is going to win the Ballon d'Or if Mbappe keeps it up at this pace, or potentially Dembele. But it's so unbelievably simple what he's doing, in the sense of just not being so unrelenting in his willingness to put Arne Slot's stamp on Liverpool Football Club. Like, where do Arteta, Postecoglou, Amorim all get off to the point where they are so high and mighty and they know so much about football that their one style of play is the only one that could possibly exist for their club to win games? What have any of them proven to be able to do that? The only coach in the world, two coaches in the world, in my opinion, who can do that are Carlo Ancelotti and Pep Guardiola. And one of them actually is okay with not having the ball and wants you to possess it and wants you to expose yourself, and then is going to go and kill you with the best players in the world. But for me, watching these other coaches flail about and be so rigid in their mentality about how they're going to play, and then watch Arne Slot do that, which, by the way, was the first time that Liverpool have won a game with that amount of possession, which was, I think, like well under 40% since the early 2000s. So, this just the rest of the coaches, and I'm not saying this as a Liverpool fan. If I was a coach of those clubs that I've already rattled off, I would be so unbelievably frustrated because, like, Ruben Amorim comes in, and do you know that there's only 2 teams in the past 60 years who have won the Premier League using a predominantly 3-back system? Antonio Conte, or Manchester United. No.
I think it
I
was
was right on the
Chelsea.
first one. It was Chelsea.
Yeah.
It was Antonio Conte's Chelsea. And then the last time that somebody won with a 3-back was fucking Everton in the 1960s. Yet Ruben Amorim comes in and is like, well, my way or the highway. I won a few games at Sporting Lisbon, so whatever I think and whatever I know to be the right way to play football is the only fucking way to play. Eat some humble pie and go take inventory of what your team is capable of doing. Go take inventory of what the other team is not capable of doing and go sort it out. And that's exactly what Liverpool did. And not for nothing, Trent Alexander-Arnold got taken to the fucking cleaners. Okay? Mo Salah gets Gvardiol sized up once and cuts him up once and is able to produce an assist. Doku had 11 chances to do that and couldn't produce a final product for any one of them. It's a simple fucking game. Pick your head up and just figure it out. I don't know. That's all I got to say about that.
So one thing I will say right there is you're giving Sloot a lot of credit, and I think he deserves a lot of credit. But part of it, it seems like two of the things you gave him credit for were things that I'm not sure he had a choice. Darwin Nunez has been so bad that, not playing him, I feel like Darwin Nunez made that choice for him. Now, it's still a big choice to make, to go without a striker like that. But that is one I feel like Nunez took out of his hands, made the choice for him. And then when you play City, the way City plays at home.
What about Jota?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that the way he went about it makes sense.
Let me ask you this. I would say the same thing for Ange Postecoglou during that stretch of 2.5 months, given all your injuries. I would say Ange Postecoglou had no choice. He had to play more defensive. He had to sit a little bit deeper. He had to not expose his team every single time they had the ball and went down the field. I would make that same argument for Spurs, but he refused to do it. Ruben Amorim, same thing. He keeps playing 3 in the back. If he switched to 4, I'd be like, these guys left him no choice. They clearly can't fucking sort it out. They're in a relegation battle right now. You say this like it's like he had no choice to do it, and that's what's making him so great, is that he's making the painfully obvious to some look ridiculously easy, while there are plenty of other coaches in charge of big clubs that are floundering at that concept.
Fair enough.
So I think Slot's specialty is not formations for them this year. They've played without a striker, I think, more often than people actually think. Even if it's Diaz or Jota up top, they still like a box midfield. They still like a box midfield, or like Gakpo and Diaz kind of just like operating as like a wide double up on the left. So like that for me is not where I'll give him credit, because he's been, or for this specific game, like he has had that intention all year.
Yes.
And you could see from preseason first couple games that Nunez was going to have a tough year. Like that was, I thought, very obvious at the beginning of the year. And like you hear him talk about his type of football and everything. I think where I'll give him a ton of credit is like the intention or the game plan behind how they were going to approach today, and especially on the defensive side, and understanding throughout the whole year, and especially the last game, like understanding the strengths and weaknesses of his players and putting them in the best position possible to do well, I think is like his biggest strength this year. Like you just look at how he's asking Salah to basically not defend as much and go score us loads of goals, and it's working. And then he plays Gravenberch to cover that space. Like he just, I think, to your point, Tyler, it's painfully obvious when you watch it, but to have a real clear understanding of what your players' strengths and weaknesses are, and then be able to put a game plan together at the highest level against the highest level of opposition, it is no small task. And it might sound easy, but it's quite hard to, your point, check your ego, or realize, the players are the ones making these decisions. I'm just trying to give them a very clear message. And I'm sure I'm like 100% positive there are non-negotiables for him on how to play and everything. But within that, there's kind of room to interpret based on the opponent.
And it takes a level of self-awareness, I think, to be able to A, even try to pull that off, and B, actually pull it off. Because you want your coach to have conviction, and you want him to have, the ability to be able to go in and say, this is what we're going to do, but to also take in feedback as well. Like, that's why I think Salah and Klopp butted heads so much, is because I'm sure Salah saw what is happening now, which is if you don't ask me to press and run like a fucking maniac, I'll put myself in the best position possible that when we do win the ball to be as effective as possible. And we saw Klopp and Salah butt heads a lot over the course of 7 years. But that's because Klopp, for as legendary as he is, he's incredibly rigid in the way that he wants to play. There's not a ton of wiggle room in terms of what he wants to do. More non-negotiables than Sloot has. But clearly, Slot has taken in feedback from the players and has clearly taken in inventory in terms of what my players can do, what the opposition is giving us, and then just basically saying to City, please break us down. Because since Rodri's been hurt, you have not proven it for multiple weeks in a row that you're capable of breaking down a low block, particularly without Erling Haaland, and Virgil van Dijk and Konate can just do whatever the fuck they want because they don't have one of the best strikers in the world to worry about.
Fair enough. Bye-bye a title race. I completely agree with what Mitch said at the beginning. I think that this weekend, I actually was saying it before, but this weekend crystallized it. It's over. It's done. Liverpool is our champs. Well done. Worthy champs, I will say as well. Now, below those top tier games, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest was incredible. Awesome game. Forest, to its credit, yes, they lost, but they could have folded multiple times in that game, and they just kept coming back and plowing forward. Any thoughts on that game, what it means for Newcastle, what it means for Forest? Gents?
Third and fourth are wide open.
Right. That was one of the questions I put in the outline. What else do we have to play for this season? Because it seems like the relegation battle, we'll get to this in just a second, the Wolves-Bournemouth game, for me, just crystal, yes, it was a red card, and that completely changed the game, but Wolves winning that game over Bournemouth is like, this team is just different than those bottom three. Like, they are a clear sort of Premier League level team. The bottom three are not. They're going to go. It's like, for me, it's already confirmed. We got 3 down, and we got Liverpool up top. Now, what else we have after Liverpool and Arsenal? Top 4/top 5. That's going to be basically the biggest thing going for the rest of the season, other than the cup competitions. Good point, Jared. As I said, 4/5, because England's going to have the coefficient. I think it's pretty much locked in at this point that 5 are going to make the Champions League for next season.
I mean, 8 through 3 are separated by 5 points. I mean, even this Forest Arsenal game could make things even more interesting. Should Forest, God forbid, come away with a win. So, and I'll tell you what. Like, talk about a situation where Mikel Arteta might want to rethink his tactics, and knowing what they're not capable of doing right now, giving Forest the ball might be in your best interest. Having 75% possession against Forest is probably going to be bad news for you.
But I don't think, to kind of elaborate on what you were saying earlier, I don't think he has that selfless a view of his game plan that he would be able to say that.
So this is where I disagree. Even though Liverpool gave City the ball, they were still controlling or dominating the game.
Agreed.
And that's where I think against Forest, that's a lot tougher because they also don't want the ball.
Agreed. You would basically just be kicking it back and forth to each other. Yeah.
So Newcastle Forest, great game. Anything else on that? Well, I feel like we never talk about Newcastle. I've said this last week. It's like
I'll tell you why. Because we all, because most of our takes are right on this podcast. Like Forest, I feel like we haven't been able to figure out what they are.
Yeah, I don't know
and
what they are.
All we do is talk about either you get blown out by Manchester City, or you pick up a big win the following week, and now it's sort of like what we're still trying to figure out exactly what they are. I mean, they have been, as far as their standards over the past 3 years, I feel like they've been painfully average by their standards, right? In terms of either qualifying for Champions League or being 9th or 10th. They just have consistently been hovering, in between that right now. And that's why they sit in 5th. But with this opportunity now with City dropping points and of course Newcastle picking up the win, this is the chance for them to really crack on and hold down a Champions League spot.
I would be curious to see if you did a survey of Premier League players and coaches, the toughest opponent for some of these kind of big four, big six clubs, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Newcastle. Like whenever a big team comes in, they always seem to be on it, put up a good fight. And this might just be because I'm watching this through Arsenal's lens, who have gotten slapped around by Newcastle. uh, but it seems like they just like their consistency of doing it against every opponent has been what's hurt them. They'll drop points unnecessarily, I think, to be like a real consistent top three, top two team in the league.
Yeah. I mean, well, for them over the course of the season, first of all, you got to keep Isaac healthy, which they haven't exactly done, but he has been healthy lately, and he's just been unreal. This week, so I said at the beginning, it's a big week for Newcastle. They just beat Forest, and then coming up on Wednesday, they play Liverpool. So that'll be an interesting one. We actually got some interesting midweek games that we'll get to in a moment, but Spurs City, Newcastle visiting Liverpool, and Nottingham Forest hosting Arsenal. Three big games, at least two big games. I don't know if you want to throw Spurs City in that same tier. Now, any other games you want to talk about? Bournemouth lost to Wolves. Red card was huge in that game.
Everton United.
Okay, we've been talking about Amorim and his difficulties. I know Adam F is definitely wants us to.
That was the worst half of football United's played under Ruben Amorim in the first half.
Their defense on that first goal was just clown show stuff, and it's not the first time they've done that. Like, it's not like the fifth time. Their defense is just hilarious.
They didn't have a shot on goal until the Bruno Fernandes set piece goal. Did not have a fucking shot on goal. And fair play, Everton has arguably been, outside of Liverpool, the best team in the Premier League for the past month. But like, Jesus Christ, figure it out. Like they are next level fucking bad. And if you, we can get into some of the. I'll save some of my stuff for United front office in GOAWs, and it's good. It's really good. But I mean, it also just is. It's infuriating if you're a United fan to watch what happened in the last 15 minutes of the game when they had any semblance of confidence. And like the fact that they can switch it that quickly and one goal can turn them from like a 16th or 17th place team into what we saw in the final 10 minutes, which was like an actually like competitive football side. It really just goes to show like how starved they are of confidence and actually believing what they're being sent out there to do for Ruben Amorim, which I don't think they'd actually believe in it.
Now that we're on United, I'm going to slip in here the listener feedback segment, which is something I've been wanting to sort of mix in more often. But somebody got Alex Tadeo sent me a DM. I think it was Instagram. He said, this was after last week's podcast. Listening to the pod this week and totally disagree with Tyler and Tommy. Ruben Amorim should not change his system. The whole point of hiring him was for him to use his system, the management, which has failed time and again. So he's talking front office there, obviously. Needs to get players that fit his system, not the other way around. Ten Hag changed his system from Ajax to United to better fit the players, and that totally failed.
I don't know. Erik ten Hag looks pretty fucking good right now for Manchester United.
It's tough. Okay, and this gets to my point and what I was trying to express last week, and I have actually been thinking about it for months, but haven't done a very good job of expressing myself, which is not the first time I've done that. But basically, when you guys have been shitting on Ange and his system and his inability to be flexible or his unwillingness to be flexible, and you're saying, you're giving him shit for that, like, I think that there's something that you guys sometimes fall victim to, and that is being prisoners of the moment and sort of prisoners of the short term. And it's not just you guys. I don't really mean to get on you guys about this. This goes for so many fans. Basically, if you don't win right now, you got to go. And maybe that's true if you're at a club like Manchester City where you're spending all the money in the world. For Tottenham Hotspur FC, that's not our expectations. And that's why I think that while I was disappointed, and I do think Ange could have been more flexible, should have been more flexible, and we'd be in better spot right now than 12th place or whatever, a few more points. I understand what he's trying to do, and I'm willing to give him more leash and more time to implement a system, get everybody on board. And if we, if we get obviously a trophy this year, it'd be fantastic. It's the second year he should do that, or he always does that. But I am of the mind that you got to give coaches more time.
So
and
back to
Amorim
the- so back
is
to
a
the room.
perfect example. He just started.
So back to the Ruben Amorim thing, like Tommy, like I'll defer to you on this in terms of like where the balance lies between waiting to get players in and overhauling an entire roster who you've already spent $500 to $750 million on, but then also working with what you have and being somewhat flexible.
Yeah. So we're unpacking a large can of worms right now. One, I am a pretty calm fan. I can understand the long-term vision of these clubs. So I am not the impulsive fan. I'm gonna stick up for myself on that one. But with the United one specifically, with like Amorim and the listener feedback that we got, I think he has, let's call them a 10 commandments of how he sees the game being played from a behavioral standpoint of, if he's picturing something regardless of formations, that's how he sees the game being played. That he should stick by. The way to bring that out with the players that he has, I think can change. And that's where I don't think he's getting the best of his players in the current formation that they're playing if you just want to talk about formations. And ideally, yes, he wants to play a 3-4-3 and has the players to do that to bring out what he's called a clear game model. But if the 10 commandments of that game model are not coming to life, then he's got to be able to adapt to what the players' current strengths are to bring that out. Like for me, that is way more important than, I'm going to line us up into a 3-4-3 until I'm 6 feet under. Like that, I think is naive. To the point I talked about earlier with Slot, like he clearly has a strong idea of what the game should feel and look like, but then some of the strategy per game changes. And that's where I think me and Tyler were both talking about his ability to tweak or adapt on that.
By the way, I love Peaches coming in and she's like basically just saying like a couple of years ago call it a project, and the Nottingham Forest fan is having a laugh at the likes of Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester United.
But like also on your project thing, he's had one transfer window. I don't even know who they brought in.
Spurs is a project now.
Yeah, I'm talking about United.
United. I'm talking
we gotta
about
figure. He's had one transfer window to do this, and then 2 weeks after the transfer window ends, I'm probably gonna steal a little bit of Tyler's thunder on his Goa. They're talking about budget cuts. Yeah. So it's like on his end, you're like, okay, I've got this backing. The Ineos or Ratcliffe have come in and be like, this is our vision. This is where we want to get to. And then his actions don't line up with that. And then as a manager, you're like, what the hell? I've been sold this path or vision, and that was part of probably the reason why he joined. Was he's like, I'm going to have the backing to do this my way, and then he's just getting the rug pulled out from under him, and he's got to go get Panera pick 2 every day after work, basically.
We got a lot of comments coming in right now. Yes, I'm glad we had that little discussion. I'm glad we could take some extra shots at United and Tottenham. The other games quickly, I will say there's actually, so looking through the results from the weekend, I think it's actually interesting. We can pull out 3 of them and we don't even need to talk about them. Brentford spanked Leicester at Leicester 4-0. Brighton spanked Southampton at Southampton 4-0. Tottenham spanked Ipswich at Ipswich Town 4-1. Those are 3 games where Premier League teams went on the road and spanked championship teams. And
that's 3 wins in a row in the Premier League. The last time that you guys did that?
Gerald Ford administration?
December of 2023.
Oh, God. It feels we're back, baby. We're so back.
So back.
We're so back. The other game I do want to talk about, though, 2 games quickly. You guys can talk about either one or neither. Aston Villa beating Chelsea. We've talked about Chelsea and, is Maresca on the hot seat and all that. But actually more interesting, Crystal Palace going to Fulham, winning 2-0. Yep. Somebody on the pod last week said, this is when it was Tyler said, this is what Palace does. This is the time they turn it around. They look good, and they really did. They looked like a very good team.
But that
this
was
weekend.
also that was Fulham's worst game of the year, hands down. They were absolute dog shit, and that was coming off the win against Forest.
Right, and we're not going to give Palace any credit for that, though.
No,
At
no.
Fulham?
You already
Okay.
gave them credit. I'm just
Okay.
I'm just giving more context. Don't
Okay.
do that. Okay, fucking win 3 games in a row. We're back, and you just get to yell at
We're so
everybody on the
back.
pod. Yeah.
We're so back. Let's see. Villa Chelsea. Anything to say?
Chelsea sucks. Chelsea's really bad right now.
They're in a bad way.
They're in a really bad way. I mean, that ball that Palmer decided to take a couple touches on and slip and kill the whole attack, like first 5 weeks of the season, he is opening up his hips and burying that into the upper 90. Like that just goes to show what's going on over there right now. They've got some problems. And the goalkeeping. I mean, it's like buying like a $3 million mansion and forgetting to make your insurance payments. Like, what the fuck? Like, how did you not have the goalkeeping situation figured out if you were willing to buy every single position in Europe?
Well, I think they have tried to figure out the goalkeeping position. They've bought every goalkeeper under the sun at this point for $15 million or more.
Try Gaga Slonina out. I mean, you might as well at this point. Just give the kid a run.
I mean, Kepa's playing pretty well as well. Bring him back. All right. Let's go quickly FPL, where Erling Haaland really did me no favors this weekend.
You still haven't sold him? Jeez.
I still haven't sold him. I think it might be time right now.
So
I actually was higher than the average, but I think I was the low man on the totem pole in the Sam's Army Council of Elders this week. Yep, I was. Winner, Mitch, coming up big. Did you use a chip?
Yeah, I used a bench boost.
Okay.
Pretty well, I would say. I had I had Flecken, I had Munoz, and I had Chris Wood on my bench, along with Lewis Skelly, who got me -2. But tactical bench boost, really happy with that.
Okay, well played. Everybody else was in between 71 and 74 points. I scored 66. Mitch was at 92. So the leaderboard is still Mikey, Tommy, me, Tyler, Mitch. And by the way, we're going to start sometime soon a Discord FPL Cup competition, so a knockout competition. So if you're not on the Patreon, get on the Patreon now. Get in the Discord. The chat is always going 24/7. Best bets are flying. Everything else, there's La Liga, there's Serie A, Premier League, USMNT, off topic, kits talk. I mean, there's literally
just added a Football Manager channel today. I've been slacking on that because I don't personally play, but I know Mikey was frothing at the mouth for that. So if you play Footy Manager, like I know many of you do, come and talk about it in the Discord. It's really a great place.
There you go. So join the Sam's Army Patreon, get on the Discord, and we're going to start a knockout cup competition for FPL in the coming weeks for everybody on Discord, so we can talk a lot of shit there. Now to the Sam's Army Podcast League, Major League Soccer, Fraser Connor is still up top. He's been up there for a while now. Connor Lingus, Rob Carey is in second. Magnets, Patrick Kelly in third. No Hair, No Mo. Christopher Frost is in fourth. And then rounding out the top 5 is Team Zizou, Sam Robertson. Now this week, so we have a full midweek slate of games. And as I said earlier, we got some big ones. And then we have FA Cup at the weekend. So a week off for a couple of our teams. Anyway, so we'll start with the midweek where, as I said, Forest, Arsenal, Spurs, City, Liverpool, Newcastle are the highest profile ones. Brighton, Bournemouth is another interesting one. They play on Tuesday. Tommy, which game are you most interested in or intrigued by?
Arsenal Forest for selfish reasons.
Are you nervous? What's your nervous level coming in this one?
Pretty nervous. I texted you guys. This reminds me a lot of Arsenal's back-to-back losses last year, home to West Ham and away to Fulham. And the reason those stick in my head was, I thought that was when we lost the title, but I was also at both of those games, so they hurt just a little bit more. And the Arsenal Fulham one, they just were nowhere near good enough. Same as kind of Arsenal West Ham this past weekend. And now you have to go to a team where they're clearly going to want to double down on being the aggressor, being the protagonist, and then they might just pop him on the counter a couple times. And that was what Arsenal West Ham was last year. That's Forest's specialty. So yeah, I'm actually kind of nervous for that.
That makes sense. I will say, if Forest win this game, I'm gonna give up my hope of Tottenham catching them this season. I'll officially say that Forest is gonna finish ahead of you. Mitch, are you nervous?
Listen, if I'm giving up hope in second right now, I think you should surrender that hope in your current position.
It's one of the few things I got left, Mitch. Let me have this.
I hope it kills you. If you told me at the beginning of the season that in late February there would be a fixture between Spurs and City, and we were in second, I would say, oh, that's probably a really pivotal fixture at this point. Spurs will take their annual points off City, and we'll go first. But that is not the case. I'm still interested in that game though, because that'll be kind of a that'll kind of show where the bar is between that top 3 and 4 and like the rest of the league. Will you guys in your current condition be able to take points off City again? They're a wounded animal right now, but can they beat you? That's going to be the most entertaining neutral watch for me.
And a lot of times when it's a wounded animal, especially City, I would be nervous. Mm-hmm. Not so much, at this point. But again,
they're so brittle defensively.
They are. Their defense is just. I'll take the over. I'll give you that. I'll take the over in that game.
Is Haaland healthy?
I don't think so, but I don't know. I mean, he didn't even have
it says a few days on FOTMob, whatever that means. So he'll probably be like a game time decision or come off the bench.
Yeah, I gotta sell him. Gonna have to sell him. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
The fact that I held on to him for this long. I don't know if you know this. We do a weekly podcast about the Premier League, and we talk about how woeful Manchester City have been compared to last year.
You still have Cole Palmer too?
Yeah, I still have Cole Palmer.
You log on
and Havertz.
Oh, jeez, Sam.
I don't have Havertz. Hold on. No, don't put me under that bus.
Shit. I'm in 5th out of all of us, so
right.
I'm gonna let you guys carry this.
So you guys are talking a lot of shit for being behind me, Tommy and Mitch. Well, listen. I mean, the thing about Haaland is that he hasn't been that bad. His last games, other than Liverpool, obviously, where he didn't play and scored 0 points, 5.6 points, 12.6 points. 2 points, 13 points, 8 points. I mean, Haaland has not been the problem.
No, but for his price, that's underperforming.
Perhaps.
Yeah,
that's perhaps. Well, I'm working on this. Okay, I'm scared of change. You guys know this. But yeah, this is the week. Got to do something. Any other games, Tyler? So we've talked to Arsenal, Forest. We got City, Liverpool, City, Tottenham, Liverpool, Newcastle.
I think Brighton Fulham should actually be a decent game with Brighton.
Wait, it's Brighton Bournemouth, no?
Brighton Bournemouth. Sorry.
Yeah,
I skipped a week ahead on Google over here. Yeah, Brighton Bournemouth. No, and even still, Brighton Bournemouth will be a good game. And then Palace hosting Villa, because I'm still not 100% convinced by Villa right now. I still think that some of their pieces are integrating, and it's not. Because like barely scraping by to beat Chelsea is not like, especially at home, it is not a nothing to be waving the flag about right now. But I think that'll be a good game too. And I like Palace to win it at home. That's Selhurst.
United Ipswich Town.
Who knows?
No, little tease. All right. Now what about the weekend? Quickly, FA Cup. So we got some big ones. Palace, Millwall. I know that's a big South London rivalry. You got City hosting the Giant Killers, Plymouth Argyle, Newcastle, Brighton, and United Fulham. So the thing I will say here, who you, Mitch, if you were going to put money on somebody to win the FA Cup right now, who would it be?
Liverpool.
They're out.
Oh, FA Cup. Sorry. Oh. It's really good odds. So that's,
I'll book that one.
Newcastle, right?
Okay. Tyler, who you got?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Who you got to win the FA Cup this season?
Win the FA Cup? Liverpool.
God damn it. Who amongst the actual contenders?
Sure, Newcastle. Why not?
Everybody's going to Newcastle.
Plymouth Argyle.
Okay, that's a good answer. It just would make so much sense after all the shit we've given United and Amorim, if they somehow, some way, find a way to just survive in advance, and
like
everybody else. What's that? Yeah, basically. it's same thing all over again. I mean, not all, but some of the big guys are gone. Liverpool's gone. Arsenal's gone. Forest are gone. There's a pathway here for Manchester United.
Forest is still in. I think Chelsea's out.
Oh, Forest.
Chelsea's out.
Okay, my bad on that.
We're gonna get like a unique trophy winner this year. I think someone who hasn't won in
that would make me care because like a faux pas Big Six club like Manchester United winning it last year doesn't really do anything for me.
So the Premier League teams to list your guys' care level right now are Villa, Palace, Bournemouth, Wolves, City, Newcastle, Brighton, United, Fulham, Forest, Ipswich.
Forest winning it would make me happy.
Mm-hmm.
Palace winning it would make me happy.
Villa, I think I would want to win too.
I think pretty much anybody but the Manchester teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Manchester United just won it too, so I'm going to throw them in with City.
If City win the FA Cup, does Pep keep his job?
He announced his intentions to stay, didn't he? This is
I
like
think
a
he
week
did.
ago.
It might not be up to him.
Yeah, no, that might not be his choice, but he announced his intentions.
I feel like from a profit and sustainability and financial fair play standpoint, if you miss out on Champions League and you're Manchester City with that payroll, that's significant. That is significant. You can't be paying like 6 players £325,000 a week and not get the money from Champions League.
I don't know if money's the problem here, and they've got 5 slots to get in, so I'm not actually too concerned for them. It would be awesome if they didn't. But yeah, I guess we'll see on that. I think there's a big issue here, big cloud hanging over the 115 charges, which we will learn something about allegedly in the next couple weeks. So that will be interesting. We'll move on though. Halftime. So we got first, before we get to our weekly what if, we're going to shout out to our good friends over at Arc Designs, the laser engraving extraordinaires of sports stadiums and whatnot for what is it for coasters. There you go.
Yes.
What are we looking for? Tell us about Arc Designs there, Tyler.
Arc Designs, another one of our fantastic partners, as Sam mentioned, 3D laser engraving. So basically, let's say you're a big Liverpool fan and you want to be able to put down your ice cold beer at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning on some sort of Liverpool paraphernalia. Arc Designs is the place for you. They will give you a bird's eye view of Anfield Stadium, and it'll say Anfield across the top. It'll have like a little Liverpool insignia in the middle of the field, and it's like a bird's eye view, and it's laser engraved into the coaster, and then it's obviously laminated and packaged in a way where you can put beverages down on it and the whole thing. They make tables of the same variety, and it's not only soccer, but it's also football, college basketball, college football, really any stadium that you can think of, and they give you the ability to custom design any stadium that you want. So if it's something that they don't have on their website, which is www.arcdesigns.com, then you can simply just type in whatever stadium and team that you want, and they will make it for you. But thanks again to our partners at Arc Designs. And by the way, this offer is going away at the end of this week. I repeat, it's going away at the end of this week. If you want to pick up your 10% discount, head over to arcdesigns.com. Get 4 or 5 coasters, get one for your lady friend, get one for your boyfriend, whatever it might be. And it'll get you 10% off using the code SAM25, SAM25. And thanks again to Arc Designs for being a fantastic partner.
There you go. Halftime. So weekly what if. This will probably be obvious for anybody who's been following along, especially with Italian teams recently. But what if your teammate refuses to let the designated penalty taker take a penalty, tells your captain and the rest of his teammates, including you, to fuck off, and takes the penalty himself? How are you handling this situation, Tommy?
Oh, thanks. So I actually like the sub his ass off, but for me, that doesn't do anything. For me, it's in the locker room afterwards. He's got to take a serious fine, some sort of punishment. Maybe a fight in the locker room would benefit the situation, but a hefty fine.
Hefty fine. Okay.
Yeah.
And for everybody who's not watching the Italian teams recently, so it happened twice over the past week. And I know we've seen situations in MLS and other places, but it happened twice with Italian teams. Adamola Lookman in Champions League for Atalanta, and then Lorenzo Luca for what's his team? I'm blanking on his team. Empoli? Udinese? I think it's Udinese. Yeah. So Lookman, the different things happened, different outcomes of these situations. So Lookman took it in the Champions League and missed. And then after the game, the coach said he's the worst penalty taker I've ever seen in my life, which is an interesting, perhaps unnecessary little shot there. But then the Udinese coach handled it differently. So Lookman was also allowed to continue to play in that Champions League game. As soon as Lorenzo Luca took it in Udinese, he buried it, number one, then went and celebrated by himself because nobody wanted to celebrate with him. And he was immediately subbed off. Udinese's coach is like, get the fuck out of here. Although he did shake his hand coming off, which was interesting. And then said, he was actually conciliatory outwardly, publicly, and said, well, he made the penalty and whatever. And it sounds like he handled it in-house. Interestingly. So Mitch, any differences of opinion on Tommy?
Am I this player's teammate in this scenario, or am I the coach?
Teammate.
I'm the teammate.
Let's say teammate.
Okay. I guess my reaction then is based on whether or not he scores. I agree that some hands in the locker room might have to occur, but like hockey style, like let's take care of it, and then after we get up, it's all done. A fine, yep, probably, but I don't know if he scores.
Water under the bridge. That was sort of the second part of the question is, does the outcome actually dictate how you handle the situation? I disagree on that, by the way. I think it should not matter whether he makes it or not, but I do understand where you're coming from on that.
I think you need some context too. Has the penalty taker, the designated penalty taker's history been good? I'm probably not that person, so I'm like a fly on the wall for this scenario. Do I like the designated penalty taker? Has that designated penalty taker been having a good game? I think all of these things matter. But ultimately, if the player scores, I don't know, let's yell about it in the locker room after. Let's run a couple sprints and let's be all good.
That's interesting because Lookman was actually the only player on Atalanta's team that was really doing something in that game. So it is interesting that he basically took the penalty. Tyler, anything to add here?
I'm with Tommy. Definitely substituting him is not the right move, because anything that's going to affect the game is cutting off your nose to spite your face. Like, there's no reason to use a substitution window and sub off a player that you weren't originally intending to sub off. So I would keep him on the field. If I'm his teammate, I'm give him one of these and I'll be like, you're a fucking asshole. Like, we always knew you didn't fucking care about this team. And I'll give it to him a little verbally, and then we'll come to fisticuffs in the locker room afterwards. And I'm with Tommy, like, pay a fine. Literally, that is like the highest level of defiance. That's basically as good as going AWOL in war. Or defying your superior officer. Like, I think that you should be put on the firing range and just sort of don't do that. I'm the political correspondent here, right? I get to decide what's what. I think it's because it's written out on the fucking whiteboard before every single game. You know exactly who's supposed to be taking it. And I don't care whether or not they're having a good or a bad game, because penalty kicks are a different part of the game than everything else. And that's why it decides championships, because we just have to figure out a way to find out a champion. But I hate it. I think it's such a bad look. Yeah.
It's so it's incredible. I mean, like, I say this as a goal scorers union president emeritus. It's a terrible look.
Goal scorers.
By the way, Tommy actually said you want him subbed off immediately, which you disagree with. I actually am on Tommy's side. I think you need to get him off. Get him off. I know you said
okay. So then so let's say that's your fifth and final, or that's your third and final substitution window. Somebody else gets hurt and then has to play the rest of the game, and you guys are playing down a man because your ego was too big and because you were like, we need to sub you off.
In theory, you're playing down a man for the rest of the game anyway, because no one trusts this guy.
Oh, come on. Which I think is also immature. Like, just because his actions defied the entire team doesn't mean that it needs to affect everybody else. You still have a job to do. You still need to win the game. Fucking, drag him through town square naked and tarred and feathered after the game. Like, you don't need to do it while you're still trying to get the job done.
Context is important, and as Adam F pointed out in the chat, he was on the Udinese player Lorenzo Luca was on a yellow at the time, so I guess
30 minutes in is crazy. It's a ridiculous substitution to make.
I was all for that substitution, all for it. Got to set a precedent.
Yeah, precisely.
Got to set a precedent.
And Tyler, if it's 30 minutes in, that's not your third and final substitution window anyway.
No, but I'm just saying if that were the scenario, like he's basically saying like sub him off no matter what. Yes, this was in the 30th minute, which I think is even more heinous because it's the same thing. Like you might not have that substitution window anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It would be. Yeah, no, I'm. You got to set a precedent. Get him off. Deal with it later.
Okay.
All right. The best time of the week here. The best minute of everybody's week. MLS hit it and quit it minute. The Minute Man is back. It's been a long off season.
It has been a long winter, everybody. But my goodness, we are glad to be back in the sack.
Oh.
All right, Captain. Do I have permission to set sail here?
Oh yes. Give us all you got.
All right. So, what better place to get back into the sack than beautiful Los Angeles with the beaches and the palm trees and everything? LAFC playing host to Minnesota United, two teams who just by happenstance are in my top 3 for the Western Conference for predictions in Major League Soccer. Predictions in MLS are basically just wild guesses. Nobody actually really knows what's going on. LAFC are 1-0 winners despite a strong performance from Eric Ramsey's Minnesota United. And they come away with the win. All right, let's head to more beaches and more palm trees, but this time on the other side of the country. Inter Miami playing host to NYCFC. Keep in mind, CONCACAF Champions Cup in frigid temperatures. -7 degrees was the feel-like temperature in Kansas City for Inter Miami. Lionel Messi got it done at the midweek. They could not get it done at home against NYCFC. Tomas Aviles is sent off in the first half. Inter Miami went down 2-1, got caught napping on a set piece. Well done by NYCFC, but it's going to feel like a draw it's going to feel like a loss, Inter Miami, 2 assists from Lionel Messi. It finishes 2-2 despite a valiant effort from the Pigeons to get all 3 points. All right, let's head to the beautiful state of Ohio. A little bit further up north, I-71 from where I am in Cincinnati. Columbus playing host to Chicago. Little rivalry game. Week 1, we absolutely love it. But Chicago, going Chicago. It doesn't matter who's the coach of that team, whether it's Triple G or Pep Guardiola. 3 piss poor giveaways at the back from Chicago. And when I say piss poor, I really do mean it. Columbus are 4-2 winners despite a brace from the young boy, Brian Gutierrez, who had 2 fantastic goals. Joe Bamba and him are going to be a bit of a problem, but if you're not going to be able to sort it out at the back, and Triple G's style, obviously a very unique one. He wants to build out, but it just ain't for me, dog. It's an absolute no. All right, let's head over to Atlanta in front of 60,000. It was the 3rd most attended game in the world this weekend. No, that was not a typo. 3rd most attended game in the world. 60,000 at Mercedes-Benz to see the league-record-breaking signing of Emmanuel Latte Lop, and he did not disappoint. Worth every bit of the $22 million, at least for week 1. 2 goals in a 3-2 win over Montreal in a rematch of that wild card game in the Eastern Conference from a year ago. All right, let's head to Central Florida, where nobody wants to be unless you're going to the Magic Kingdom, but we're going to be here at Inter & Co Stadium, Orlando City, playing host to the Philadelphia Union. And we got 3 very familiar goal scorers on the score sheet for the Union, as Ua and Gazdag are also on the score sheet. 4-2 is the final score against an Orlando City side. I never really want to make it them. Oscar Pereja, what are you when it comes to MLS? I still can't decide. All right, let's head to our nation's capital, DC United and Toronto FC. Same week 1 matchup from 2023, but this time DC cannot get the win. 2-2 is the final score. Federico Bernardeschi on the score sheet, as well as Christian Benteke. All right, let's head to Cincinnati, one of the greatest cities on planet Earth and the soccer capital of America at the moment. And they pick up a big 1-0 win. Talk about a big-time money signing coming up huge. Kevin Degge, 2 goals in 2 games. CONCACAF Champions Cup over Motagua and Honduras in the midweek, and then gets the lone goal in the 1-0 win over New York Rebels, MLS Cup finalists from a year ago. Maxime Choupo-Moting got the start, but was not able to find the back of the net, and Pat Noonan side off to a rip-roaring start here in 2025. All right, let's head to the game that I was on the call for. A bit of a snooze fest. We had some big money signings on both sides. Dejan Joveljic, Manu Garcia for Sporting Kansas City. Brandon Vasquez, the $10 million man, was not linking up with his boy Mitor Ozuni coming over from Granada for $12.5 million. Yeah, Austin spent a little bit of money this offseason, all right? Mr. Precourt's got it. Fat stacks in his pocket. But Austin come away with a 1-0 win thanks to a goal off the face of Austin FC's DP Bukhari. No, that is not a typo. All the things that just came out of my mouth are actually real words, and I just happen to combine them in the most uncomfortable way possible. Big win for Verde as they come away 1-0 winners. All right, let's head to Nashville and to Music City, but there was no music to be had. Nashville, New England, 0-0 draw. Who cares? Let's go over to Texas. Little Copa Tejas derby between Houston Dynamo and FC Dallas. Dynamo with one of the worst giveaways at the back, potentially outdone by Chicago, but probably not for the Dallas equalizer. Petar Musa was able to scoop it up and score. Dallas come away 2-1 winners in H-Town. All right, let's head over to St. Louis. No music in St. Louis either. I don't really know. Nelly's a great musician from St. Louis, but he wasn't there to help out. Colorado, St. Louis City played to a 0-0 draw. Hard fought. Sure, you could say that. How about my boy Bruce Arena out in Northern California? San Jose Earthquakes against Real Salt Lake, part of that big trade that saw Chicho Arango go to San Jose for $1.4 million in GAM. They just said, we want him out. We don't care about this cash for players initiative. We just want to get him off of our payroll. He did not have a hand in any of the 4 goals scored by San Jose, but what a performance from the Earthquakes against a, yes, very undermanned RSL side. 4-0 is the final score, and the Bruce Arena era is off and running. And I'll tell you what, if Bruce can turn it around in San Jose, as if he's not already the best coach in Major League Soccer history, he'll go down as one of the greatest in North America, pyramid, if he can turn that shit show around in what it's been over the past several years. All right, Pacific Northwest, last game on Saturday night, Seattle Sounders and Charlotte played to a 2-2 draw. No Wilfred Zaha. Yes, I know, very disappointing for everybody, but his wife was giving birth, so you have priorities and everything like that. 4 goals split right down the middle. 2-2 is your final score. Sunday, let's not start with Sunday Night Soccer because that wasn't the first game. Portland and Vancouver, a rematch of the wild card matchup in the Western Conference, was the first game. And Portland, I mean, come on, Miller, what on earth are we doing? 11 minutes in, picks up a red card, and Portland get absolutely trounced. They lost 5-0 in that wild card game last year. And Phil Neville is surely saying, do you need any other reason to get up for this game? They beat you 5-0 on your own patch when you were even supposed to have a home game last year. Vancouver win it by a score of 4-1. My goodness, what is going on with Phil Neville and company? Then Sunday Night Soccer, first ever edition from Apple TV. Fantastic initiative to give you a primetime game every single Sunday that you're not going to have to worry about and changing the channel and trying to go to every single game and Kevin Egan on MLS 360. No, we get to watch one game, focus our attention. We are not the generation of ADHD. San Diego FC, they've never played a competitive game before, and you pin them up against the reigning MLS Cup champions, LA Galaxy, and you think this should be pretty straightforward. Absolutely not. Anything but. San Diego organized. They were motivated, and Mikey Varis, I mean, he is absolute popcorn entertainment on the sidelines. San Diego and Anders Dreyer come away with a huge 2-0 win in Carson, California, what's going to be a budding rivalry. And San Diego, first ever game, first ever win, second team since 2019 to win their expansion game along with St. Louis City in 2023, and that will do it for the MLS Hitting Quint Minute. And given the fact that I haven't been in the sack in quite some time, I lasted a while, so I apologize.
Well done, sir. You got it done in the end, and that's all that matters. Allegedly, not that I would know. That San Diego game, by the way, that was some, I don't know what the word, turgid. That was some turgid stuff for the first say 70 minutes or so. That was a tough watch.
First 5 minutes were great, and then the next 65 minutes stunk. But
that was tough. On St. Louis, it was a tough start. Columbus is a good team. Bamba looks dangerous. Goody needs to step up, so that was great to see. And that third goal that Columbus scored, that was a foul. I'm just saying, that was a foul. All right, we'll move on to stoppage time. Okay. Well, we know where we got to start. Toot toot! Overtrain. Overtrain is cooking, boys and girls. Another 4-1 week. Feeling good, looking good. Got the hat on, so you know the picks are going to matter. They're going to bring us money. It's going to rain. That's why we got the hat on. So last week we went 4-1. Several of the games, I think 3 of the 4 winners went over 2.5. They went over 3.5. So that's what we want to see from these. We will go this week, starting on Wednesday. We're going to Turkey, the Super League, which may play a part in GOAWs in just a moment. Trabzonspor is hosting Rizespor in Turkey on Wednesday. Thursday, we're going to the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Vancouver Whitecaps are heading home down 2-1 or down 1-2 against Saprissa. I think that's going to go over 2.5. Friday, we are going to the Danish second tier. HB Koja is hosting Esbjerg. Saturday, Necaxa, who has been an absolute Demon, Hall of Fame winner for Overtrain lately. Necaxa is hosting Tigres in Liga MX. And then Sunday, we're going back to Denmark, except we're going to the top tier. Viborg is hosting Velge Bold Club. So there we go. 5-a-side, Overtrain, let's get rich Wednesday through Sunday. All right, Mitchell, what do you got for us?
I got 3 this week. All of these are going to be on a Wednesday. First 2 are just money line. Real Madrid money line against Real Sociedad in the Copa del Rey. Brentford money line against Everton. And then this one, I don't know why the odds are like they are right now. This is the Coupe de France, PSG -1.5 against Stade Briochin. I'm not saying that correctly, but they are currently 17th in the National League in France. I don't know how they've made it this far in the Coupe de France. But PSG is still like -180, -1.5. And it feels like a MLS team playing a D2 college side. That's purely based on reading stats. I've not watched Stade Briochin at all this season. But yeah, you put all those together, +460.
Well done. All right, Tyler, you got your plus 3,300 parlay lined up here.
I resent this. It's only plus 942. Crystal Palace at home against Aston Villa, money line. Fulham on the road against Wolves, money line. And Liverpool at home against Newcastle, money line for your plus 942. $10 to win 104.23. Just
Fair
giving you a
enough.
suggestion. That's all.
Fair enough. Tommy, round it out. What do you got?
I'm just going over unders for the week. So I'll go Napoli Inter under, Stuttgart Munich over, Arsenal Forest under, Brighton Bournemouth over.
I love it. I love it. Tommy's learning here. Overs and unders, and specifically overs. That's all we need. Okie doke. Time to put a bow on this episode with everybody's favorite segment, GOAWs. Tyler, I think it was you that teased your pick, so go for it.
Yeah, so we all know that Manchester United are in a bad way on the field, right? I mean, like, how could it possibly get any worse? Well, Sir Jim Ratcliffe says, hold my beer. So they're entering a leaner era at Manchester United, and that's not from a frugal standpoint, but that's also because they are now going to start to starve their employees. So there used to be a canteen that was open to the employees that worked at the training center. And obviously they're there all day while the players are there cleaning up, helping out, you know, in the kitchen, whatever. And they used to have like proper lunch that was set out for everybody. And instead of getting an actual lunch now, they're just going to be offered soup or fruit. And by fruit, you know, I know what it means to be offered fruit when you're working, like when you're working a day job. It means that there's a couple apples and bananas basically thrown out onto a picnic table that Bills fans are smashing on the weekends during football season. That's what fruit means. So not only do they suck on the field, but Manchester United sucks off the field as well. And this is to say nothing of the hundreds of jobs that they're also cutting throughout the club as well, at the academy level and from just like an overall employee level and staff. And boy, are they brutal.
I saw one thing on on that budget cut alone. They were expecting to save up to $1 million per year, which is 3 weeks of Casemiro's pay. So,
I said today on Sirius, I was like, Casemiro, Højlund, and Xerxes should all get together and pool their money and keep the canteen open, because that would be a better use of their money than whatever they're fucking doing right now, which is basically just standing in the way.
That's like Ozil with Gunnosaurus.
Yeah, exactly. They all three of those guys need the positive PR, so they should actually listen to you.
I don't want to get too political here, but I feel like Sir Jim Ratcliffe probably has a spot in Trump's cabinet right now, waiting for him.
Little Doge action.
Yeah.
Just cutting the fat. All right, Mitch, what do you got for us?
Yep. Speaking of billionaires, my GOA this week is the Winklevoss twins, who you may recognize that name from the Social Network and the story behind Facebook/Meta. But the Winklevoss twins recently purchased a 45% stake of a club called Real Bedford FC. They play in the 8th division of English football, and their hope, apparently, is to do exactly what Wrexham are doing and climb the ladder with incredible, backing and financial backing. So I don't know what to expect, but this seems like a really soulless investment from them. I do not wish well to Real Bradford FC. I hope their best players leave, and I hope they get relegated to the 9th tier of English football, whatever that may be.
You will never be confused for a bootlicker, Mr. Regulet.
That's the nicest thing you said to me.
It might be, actually. It does. It kind of seems like Wrexham without any of the positive and cool elements. So I see where you're coming from on that one. All right, Tommy, who's your go?
So I have two. I'm going with MLS admins. One, I think I sent in the Discord. The San Diego FC admin not knowing how Jeopardy works, and then
they got torched. By the way, they got
including by Mikey.
Mikey's comment was great. And then second, on a more positive note, was maybe admin or just social marketing team for Seattle Sounders, who are doing an initiative that's first games on us. So any first time attendee to a Seattle Sounders home match gets their ticket for free, which I think is a great initiative to grow the game. I am sure there are plenty of 21 to 35-year-olds who will pool this together and alternate buying tickets, which will be a loophole around that. So for listeners who are in the Seattle area, just helped you save a lot of money that you can then use on Sam's terrible over train.
Or the Patreon. Or the Patreon.
Yeah, or Patreon. Yeah. Those are my goals.
Good shout. And listen, if you don't, for the record, the Overtrain is cooking, as I've already said. It's cooking at the moment. But if you want to go to the Patreon, you get on the Discord, you get in the bets, you basically get access to the best bets, which just pays for itself. So boom. All right, good shout. I'm going to, speaking of billionaires, one of my I guess I'm going to give the actual go to the billionaire. So I'm going to give my honorable mention to the Fenerbahce fans who were raining down actual flares onto the heads of Galatasaray fans in today's derby in Turkey. Those two teams, and not just those two teams, but the Turkish soccer is just a crazy, crazy place that I really need to go see a game there. I will be wearing this hat if I go. Maybe actually a harder hat than that, though, because it seems like there's some crazy shit that always happens there. My actual go, though, is John Textor, an American billionaire who owns, he owns Palace, Lyon, Botafogo. I don't know if he has has stakes in other companies or not, or other clubs or not. But so he is and we're talking specifically about his stake in Lyon here, Olympic Lyon. He, this summer, was on a conference call with the other League One in France ownership groups, and the PSG. He basically got into a little sort of tete-a-tete, a little tiff with the PSG owner, who basically told him to shut up and he knows nothing and you're a cowboy, is basically what he said this summer. So in the game this weekend where Lyon played PSG, he showed up wearing a cowboy hat. And I know that that's just so small, so petty, so insignificant, but I really do appreciate the fact that he clearly he's got a little showman in him. And I like that about him. So I respect, and I'm going to give the Goa to John Textor. Now, it didn't work. PSG ended up winning the game, although it did go over and put the capstone on my overtrain for the week, 4-1. No big deal. But John Textor, you get the Goa for this week, and that's all we got, boys and girls. Tyler, Tommy, Mitchell, you guys are the best. Everybody who tuned in, especially those in the chat and from the Discord, if you're not there, go get in the Discord by getting on the Patreon. But love you guys. And everybody else, we will be back next week. Bigger, better, faster, stronger. See you guys then.